son's case, the pulmonary artery was connected to the ductus that connected it to the main pulmonary artery, so if they didn't operate, that was going to close, and his left lung would have been lost. So they had to operate right away, and my son was about that big, and his heart was the size of a walnut, and they had to lift the heart out of the chest and operate underneath it because that's where the left pulmonary artery lies. And the doctor said that it was like trying to tie together two pieces of wet tissue paper the size of a pinhead. It took him 6 hours to do it, and it was a successful surgery in the light that he connected the two pulmonary arteries together. However, it caused a brain bleed, which caused my son to have uncontrollable seizures, led to a cardiac arrest, and then eventually hydrocephalus. And so, long story short, we had 2 open heart surgeries, 2 brain surgeries, and a stomach surgery. It was the hardest 3 months of my life by far. You know, in war, I lost some really good friends in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's horrible. But there's a certain expectation that that could happen, but there's no expectation that that can happen with your child. So we lived our lives at the hospital for 3 months. Dick was awesome. He let me work from the hospital. The people around us were incredible. They helped watch our other 2 children, watched our dogs. We had 3 dogs. Mowed my lawn, the whole nine. And it was that experience that made my wife and I realize that we were going to stay in Michigan, that we were going to raise our family here, that we wanted our kids to be instilled with Michigan values. It kind of reminded me how I grew up in Pennsylvania. And, you know, Florida is transient, and it's nice down there. That's why a lot of people move down there. But you don't get the same values as you get up here. And, you know, through that experience and the whole healthcare debate going on at the same time as Blaze got better, you know, I got more frustrated with the notion of the government taking over 1/6 of the national economy through nationalizing healthcare in one way or another. And I really got frustrated at Congressman Mark Schauer for not having any open town hall meetings in the month of August. I thought that even if you already made up your mind how you're going to vote, you have a duty, a responsibility to listen to the people, how they want to vote. And if that means them yelling at you, that's what it means. As a congressman or woman, you have the responsibility to stand and deliver or stand and receive. And the fact that he hid for the month of August told me a lot about who he was and the character of that man. And that was kind of the tipping point for me wanting to get involved, because I was very fearful, and my wife said this to me, that really set the whole thing off, is, Brian, what if in the future a child is born, or a child is diagnosed like our child was, where he has congenital heart defect, and the doctors give him 2 choices. You can either kill your son or you can have hospice care, because we don't do the other thing anymore. It costs too much money, we just don't have the doctors that have that expertise anymore. Because when you have a system that, puts the principle more on primary care, which Mark Schauer always says, I want to put the emphasis more on primary care than I want to put on curing diseases or sickness. That's such a naive approach to healthcare. A lot of people tell me, well, you had good healthcare in the military. Yeah, but our population was 17 to 35. That's a pretty young population that doesn't get sick too often, and they don't get old. Sometimes we have catastrophic care, which we do well, but you don't do well with hip surgeries or hip replacements, knee replacements, getting old, and they don't do well with necessarily do as well with neonatal care. So when you talk about where you're going to cut costs, it's going to be where it's most costly, senior care and child care. And I was very fearful that that would be the future of America, where you have people literally from not just all over the state and the country coming to Michigan. You have people all over the world coming to Michigan to save their children's lives because we have the best specialized health care in the world. And I'm very fearful that that's going to go away because of what we have right now. And they say there's no public option, but guess what? There is a public option, because once the government gets their hands in the insurance companies, and the insurance companies don't necessarily care, they become agents of the state. They are like utilities. The government tells them everything. This is what your rates are, this is how you have to do things, this is how we want you to do it, and they're bound by law to do it. I know the Thomas More Law Center's filed a lawsuit, Attorney General Cox has filed a lawsuit. I believe there are some serious constitutional problems with this healthcare bill. The biggest one is the mandate, mandating people that don't necessarily want a product to say that you have to have the product. It's one thing to say you don't have to have car insurance if you don't drive a car, but there's no options for people if they don't want to get health insurance. You have to buy it. So it's like saying, all right, we own GM, and you have to buy a GM car. You can't buy a Toyota. And you have to buy the car, and you have to buy this kind of car. That's what's happening now.